Recently, I talked about reed relays and the way that when a magnet on the train passes over the reed switch on the baseboard or in the track, that it would change the state of the reed relay or reed switch. And one of the comments I got was, well, won't the magnet pick up all the iron filings and metal things? Well, look at this. Do you see that? Now, I've never had a problem with this, and I have no idea how this has happened, but look what's there. I don't use those. I'm going to try and take it out so you can see me do it. There is, look at that. There's a magnet right under there. Not that I've put there, but that's actually the motor magnet. And it's called a track pin. I don't use these. I have them, obviously, but I don't use them. And there must have been one that was on the board. So yes, that can happen, but no reed switch or self-inflicted magnet anywhere to be seen. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate me showing you that. That's interesting. Always have to be clean and tidy around the layout. I was actually just moving that train out of the way because I'm going to show you something in a video that I needed it not to be there. Oh well. Well, it was very rude of me not to let you see the train move, since that's what I am doing, wouldn't it? There we go. I'm just moving it out of the programming track. You'll see why in a minute. Well, there's another one back there, isn't there? Come on, out you come. This one needs a good run. Well, there we are. That's probably the most exciting part of the whole video for some of you. Tonight I'm talking about double pole, double throw switches. I really had wanted to get on with the station. Nothing has changed. Still the same. And the why behind that what is that I've got some bits and pieces on order from one of the very reputable suppliers in England. We'll talk about that another day. They're doing a fantastic job though, so you might be able to guess who they are. Double pole, double throw switches. What a boring subject. Well, yes and no. You see, a couple of things I'm going to go over tonight. This is my programming track and it runs into that platform there. We've seen this a few times. And quite simply, there is a break in the track there and a break in the track there. These two rails are powered by this wire and a wire there. And these two by this wire and that wire. Sometimes we join them together. Like right now, you saw the train come right out of there as if that gap didn't exist. And sometimes we break that gap and we do something else with it. And I'll explain that on the bench. Just show you where physically the switch is. It's right over here and then under the board, and there it is. That's the switch here. If I flick it that way, the programming track is a programming track, and if I flick it the other way, it's part of the running track. Now, how do we do it? Why did I do it that way? And what can we possibly learn from all of that? Now, pull up a chair. I've got a nice cup of tea and we can have a little chat. Now then, before we get started, thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate you. If you love what we're doing, click that like and subscribe, and we'll make some more of these videos for you. Tonight, what I'm going to do is show you how a double throw, double pole switch works and why it's so important. Two key things. The first is the shuttle that is brewing in the background. It's vital for that. And the other thing I use it for all the time is a programming track that's attached to the main line with the main layout, which is DCC controlled. So at one end of the spectrum, we've got a very simple DC operated shuttle. And at the other end, we've got a programming track attached to the main layout with DCC and all of that good stuff. Come on, let's have a look. And before you get all sad and disappointed, I thought we were going to be making the big station. Yeah, I'm a little bit stuck because I'm waiting for parts to arrive from England. As soon as they get here, we'll be on with that. And I know that not everybody's interested in electronics. I'm putting out a video more or less every other day. We'll just knock out this series on how to make the shuttle, and if the parcel arrives in the middle, we'll pause and we'll come back to it. But equally, there's a lot of interest in some of these basic electrical and electronic projects. Alrighty, let's make a two-way switch, or confusingly, in America they call it a three-way switch. I have no idea why. In the rest of the world, we call it a two-way switch because it has two positions. This is a two-way switch. There's the red cable is our power supply. Here it comes coming along, and it's got to choose, is it going to go down there or down there? So we make a switch. If the switch is in that position, the electricity comes down this way. Nothing goes down the other one because it's not connected to anything. If I move the switch, it momentarily breaks. Do you see that? As I'm moving the switch, it's not connected to anything, and then it connects to the other side, and now whatever was hooked to this wire is no longer working, but now this one is. Now, can you imagine a use for that? So red light is on, green light is on. Red light is on, green light is on. Do you remember us doing that with a certain project that was a real mess a couple of days ago? Now then, let's say along comes its friend. Can I play? Of course you can. Come on over here, but I don't want you too close, otherwise you make things confusing. So now, do you see we've got two more cables over here, and we've also got another source of electricity. So we've got two-way switches. There's one here and there's one here. Do you see that? What would happen if we joined them together? Let me try and do that. I hadn't thought to do this. Hang on a moment. Let me see what I can do for you. Is this going to work? You never know, it might. I think it will. Sometimes I plan ahead. I didn't on this. Oh my word, it works. Look at this. So now we've got a double pole, single throw switch, or two-way switches in tandem. So now the black electricity is going down this wire, and the red electricity is going down this wire. And when I flick the switch, bloop, over we go, and they both moved at the same time. See that? That doesn't look much like a switch though, does it? So there are how many connections to that switch? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's what the contacts are physically doing. That's all they're doing. Now, how can we use that? And why do we use that? Let me show you. Well, here is what one of those said switches looks like. See, there's the toggle that you flick. Oh, that's stiff. I can't flick it with one finger. There we go. And the other end of it, oh my word, there are 6 contacts. So the 3 on this side will be one switch, and the 3 on the other will be another switch. So in our example, the red and the green wires would go on these two connections in the middle, and this would simply work as a two-way switch there, and then the other side would work that way too. This is all a bit tiny, so I'm going to find the bigger ones for the sake of our example tonight. Hold 1 second while I find... Oh no, it's right here. Look at this. One of my Radio Shack specials. Let me get it out of the wrapper and I'll show you. Now I was about to take this on-off label off because I thought, well, that's going to be really confusing after me telling them what it is. You can use a two-way switch as an on-off switch. You just don't use two of the contacts. So the middle ones you would have to use and one of the other pairs. Do you see this? So that would be, let me go back to our wires over here. So if we wanted an on-off switch, we would just not use one of the contacts. There it goes, it's gone away. And there this one goes, it's gone away. And now all we're doing is when it moves that way, it's not connecting to anything. When it moves this way, it is. So that would be off and that would be on. Off and on. So that's why that's labeled on and off. I'm going to take that off though, because that will confuse us. So we're going to get rid of that and just say it's on and other on. Ooh, do you really need to see me do this? I don't think so. Now then, I bet you never thought you were going to hear me say DCC is simpler to explain than DC, but here's an instance where I believe it is. So what I'm doing is hooking these wires onto the track. This is the droppers, some people will call them. I know. What's a dropper? Doesn't matter. It's the track. So the rails then are represented by the red and the black. Now, to make the train go, they've got to be connected to something. Now, in our instance, we're using green cables for the running tracks coming from the controller, your Digitrax controller, or whatever it is you happen to be using. And we'll use yellow for the programming. So on the output of the, I don't know what color they are on your controller, but I'm using yellow and green tonight. The green ones being the main and the yellow ones being program. So now we want to hook our red, that's our rails, remember? Rails to those two. So we've now got an output going to the track. So whatever we do with our controller, the locomotive, if it has a chip inside it, will obey its command. Right, now the yellow cables we said were programming, so we're going to hook those to the programming track. There we are. I'm moving the camera, knocking the locomotive off his track. You can get back on, you're not going anywhere tonight, it's all right. And so now if we want to program that locomotive, we've got to make the hyper jump from there to the programming track. Or we could put the programming track and the running track really close together, leaving a gap, and we could use switches. Let me show you how that works. There we are now. So our programming track, these two clips here represent our programming track. See, one yellow clip there, one there. Here's the other end of those wires. Now, the programming track, we want to be able to choose what it's getting. So if we put one of these on the center pins of our two-way switches, or whatever you decide you want to call it. So all I have done is extended the connection that this rail is along this wire to the middle two connections here. Just like that. It saves me soldering the switch directly to the rails. So that's what the middle two are. So these middle two connections go directly to those programming track rails. The programming contacts from your controller come in on one side of the double pole single throw switch. And when the switch is in that position, these wires are joined to these wires. So they might just as well not be there. So now the programming track has got a programming signal. However, when I flick it the other way, these two go off to the main output. Now, the way we usually do that is we hook the main output to our main layout somewhere around the room. And then we take an additional pair of droppers. Where's the other one? It's hiding behind the locomotive. So all I'm doing now is joining those two rails to the other half of that switch. So quite literally, when I flick the switch, there's the switch. If it's in that position, it's joining the programming output to the programming track. And if it's in the other position, it disconnects that programming signal and simply connects this rail to that rail. So this programming track becomes part of the layout. I've taken quite a bit of time over that. I know it's simple. Most of us get it immediately, but it's vital that you do understand how that double pole switch works before we move on. All right, so the switch is actually a dumb thing, but we can use it in clever ways. Let me show you another way we can use it. So you've seen how to use it with a DCC programming track. Now let's look at it for a shuttle track. Let's see what happens there. Now with a DC layout, there is a plus and a minus. But you see what I just did? Plus and minus. It might be plus and minus. Who knows? We never know which rail is plus and which one is minus. So using red and green in a DC layout can get a little confusing, as it does in DCC. However, let's say that we have a 9-volt battery. There it is, because we do. What we're going to do is we're going to hook up the plus wire to the 9-volt battery and the minus wire to the minus connection on the 9-volt battery. Now, if you're using a train controller, there is a switch just like this one inside the controller in one way or another. But let's just wire this up the way we would do that. Well, there you go. You see the red is plus and the black is minus. And if this were a wall wart or a power supply of some sort, this same thing would apply. Now, the other ends of those red and black cables, I'm going to hook to the middle two connectors on our switch. Well, will you look at me? I've gone all fancy on you. So the yellow wire is connected to the rail nearest me. We don't know whether it's plus or minus yet. And the green one is the one furthest away to me. Let's hook those two wires up to the switch. Now the green wire happens to be on the same side as the black switch contacts and the yellow on the red. Now if I flick that switch, what will happen? Let me try it. Oops. Well, the clever bit is I first extended the track by a whole length, but now the end really does go off over the edge, so I've got to be even more careful. Don't worry, we'll catch you. When the switch is in the on position, the red wire connects to the yellow and the black wire connects to the green. When it's in the opposite position, there's nothing on those connectors, so it's not going to go anywhere. Now, what if I take another green wire, so it's just as if it's going to the track, and I hook it up to the same place there, only this time I cross it over. I put it on the opposite side. And I do the same with the yellow one. So now, what's going on this time? So the red wire from our power supply, in this case the battery, when that switch is in one position, it's connecting to the yellow wires. And when it's in the other position, it's connected to the green wires. So since the green and yellow represent our rails, what we have here on the other side is when the switch is in one position, the green rail is connected to negative. And when the switch is in the other position, the yellow rail is connected to the negative. So what that switch should now be doing when we flick that switch is reversing the polarity on the rails. So every time I flick the switch, the train should go Let me get this other wire out of the way. The train should go in the opposite direction. So right now, it's going forward. So what I'm going to do is put you in a place you can see that. This could be fun. So with the switch in that position, the locomotive should go that way. And when it's in the other position, the other way. Do you see what's happening? Every time I flick the switch, the polarity on the track is reversing. Catch your locomotive before it goes off the rails. Looks like a complicated hot mess, doesn't it? It just isn't. So all I've done then, once again, very quickly, the plus and the minus from our power supply, whatever that happens to be, go to the middle two, and then we connect the rails to the other two one way round, and then the opposite two the other way round. And I've done that with crocodile clips, which is why it looks a bit of a mess. But you saw how it worked. I'm hoping that helps you understand how this works. What I want you to have a think about now is that if we could find a robot to flick that switch, we would have a shuttle going backwards and forwards. Doop, de doop, de doop. All we've got to do is have something flick that switch. Now you might remember, barely a day or two ago, I showed you this funny little blob. This is a relay. Now, coincidentally, do you happen to see that there are 6 connections? Do you see that? Doot, doot, doot. Can you guess, take a guess what those 6 connections do? There we are, there's one of our switches. It's just one of these switches, smaller version of that, hiding inside plastic. It's just hiding inside there. And our robot is simply the other 2 connections, the coil. So every time we put power on that coil, it energizes that relay and simply is flicking that switch back and forth. When there's no power to the relay, it's in that position, and when there is power to it, it pulls that switch down as if by magic, and when you turn the power off again, it flips back the other way. So then, a relay in place of our switch, and we're now able to reverse the polarity on our rails at will. How do we get the train to stop at each end? Well, we've done that already, remember? And if I turn my track around, as if by magic, look at this. Oh, Ian, you are. There we are. We hook the track back up. There now. And we reconnect our diode. Whoop. What we've got now is a diode on each end, and every time the train crosses into the section beyond the diode, the train will stop. And when the relay does its magic by reversing the polarity in the rails, the locomotive will head off in the opposite direction. So tonight, the DC took more explaining than the DCC. You saw a couple of trains running right up at the start of the video. I've gone into quite a bit of detail on that simply because it's absolutely crucial that if we're going to do some electronics in the future, that you understand at least the dirt basics. For those of you who are engineers, just bear with me, okay? I'm just me, trying to help along some newbies. And then the rest of you can help me along with the modeling part. And we're going to get to that in a minute. It's coming. It's coming. There's me talking about instant gratification, and here I am having to exercise patience. As always, really thank you for watching. Thanks for your encouragement and for clicking those likes and subscribes. It means a lot. Thank you.